You can't point to the moment you became you. Think about your first ever memory. Really try to picture it. Now think about who you were yesterday. Are you the same person? Your gut reaction is probably, yeah, of course. But what if I told you that your brain doesn't quite agree? What if you aren't a single continuous thing, but a story your brain tells itself? A story that gets a fresh rewrite every single day. We're about to explore the science and the ancient paradoxes that prove you can't point to the one moment you became you, because it never actually happened. Section 1. The central thesis, the brain as a storyteller. Here's the big idea. Your sense of self, that stable feeling of I that wakes up in your body every morning, isn't a static object. It's a dynamic process, a non-stop narrative your brain constructs to make sense of the world. Think of your brain as a master storyteller. It scoops up fragments of memory, fleeting emotions, physical sensations, and hopes for the future, and weaves them all into a coherent main character, you. But this story isn't written in ink. It's written in the constantly shifting connections between your neurons. And just like any great story, it evolves. The protagonist you were at 15 is wildly different from who you are now, not just because you've lived more, but because the storyteller itself, your brain, has physically changed. The self isn't a thing you have, it's a thing you do. It's a verb, not a noun. And this isn't just a poetic thought. It's a process we can actually see happening in the wiring of our brains. So how on earth does the brain pull off this seamless sense of self? Section 2. Building the argument. The neuroscience of you. If you went looking for the self inside the brain, you'd come up empty-handed. There's no single spot, no little identity headquarters that houses the essence of who you are. Instead, neuroscientists see a sprawling network of brain regions all working together. It's kind of like a company's leadership team, where different departments all have to collaborate to shape the corporate identity. Two of the star players in this network are the prefrontal cortex and the anterior cingulate cortex. One particular spot, the ventromedial prefrontal cortex, really lights up during our teenage years. This is the brain's hub for self-reflection and figuring out our values. It's working overtime during adolescence, as our brains get obsessed with the question, who am I? This isn't just teenage angst, it's a biological mission. The brain starts acting like a decision engine, where every choice gets filtered through our emerging identity. For example, the moment you start to see yourself as an athlete, the value of going to practice skyrockets, and your brain prioritizes it. Your identity literally starts shaping your motivation from the inside out. But this whole construction project relies on something we all take for granted, our memories. And that's where the story gets even stranger. Section 3. The memory illusion and the ship of Theseus. We like to think of our memories as perfect recordings of the past, a library of DVDs that proves we're the same person over time. But the brain doesn't work like a video camera. When you recall a memory, your brain doesn't just hit play, it actively reconstructs it from scratch. And every single time you do that, the memory can be subtly changed by your current mood, your new beliefs, and what you've learned since. This means the story of your past isn't a fixed document. It's a living manuscript that your brain is constantly editing. The you from 5 years ago that you remember today isn't a perfect copy. It's a character in a story, reimagined through the lens of who you are right now. This leads us perfectly to a classic philosophical puzzle, the ship of Theseus. The paradox, first told by the historian Plutarch, asks this: if a ship has had all of its wooden planks replaced one by one over the years, Is it still the same ship? If not, when did it stop being the original? Was it with the first new plank? Or the very last? Now just apply that to yourself. Your body is in a constant state of renewal. Most of your cells are replaced over time. Your memories are always being rewritten. Your personality and beliefs evolve. So, are you the same person you were a decade ago? You're just like the ship of Theseus, a pattern that stays recognizable even as all its parts are changing. You're a story that keeps its title even as every single word is gradually rewritten. But what if the truth is even weirder? What if the self the brain works so hard to build isn't really there at all? Section 4. Bridging to philosophy, the spiritual paradox. This is where modern neuroscience starts to sound uncannily like ancient spiritual traditions. For centuries, thinkers, especially in Eastern philosophies, have argued that our entire sense of a solid self is an illusion. The philosopher Alan Watts famously said that our feeling of being a separate ego, a skin-encapsulated person looking out at a foreign, external world, is basically a social convention, maybe even a hallucination. We get so caught up in the symbol, our name, our job, the idea of ourselves, that we mistake it for the real thing. From this viewpoint, the ego isn't who you are. It's a role you play. It's a handy costume for getting by in society, but it isn't the whole you. This is a lot like what the psychologist Carl Jung called the persona, the social mask we wear for the world. Jung believed that a healthy person knows they're wearing a mask and doesn't mistake it for their entire face. Many of these traditions use the metaphor of an onion. You can peel back all the layers of the ego, your job, your relationships, your beliefs, your memories. But when you finally get to the center, you don't find a hard, solid core. You find nothing. And in that nothingness, they would say, you find everything. You find the underlying awareness that was playing the role of you the entire time. Section 5, the unresolved mystery, where science and spirit meet. So here we are, at this fascinating intersection. On one hand, neuroscience shows us that a fixed, unchanging self simply doesn't exist in our biology. The brain is defined by its neuroplasticity, its incredible ability to rewire itself throughout our entire lives. Our identity is not set in stone. It's constantly being updated. On the other hand, philosophy suggests the very idea of a separate self is a story we tell ourselves. The paradox is that science can point to the brain networks that create our sense of identity, like the default mode network that hums with activity when we're daydreaming or thinking about ourselves. But it can't answer the ultimate question. Who am I? Maybe these two perspectives aren't fighting at all. Maybe they're just answering two different questions. Neuroscience is telling us how the brain builds the experience of a personal identity. It's a biological story of change, memory, and choice. Philosophy, meanwhile, is asking what is the nature of the consciousness that is having this experience in the first place. The fact that you can't point to the moment you became you seems to reflect both the slow, steady process of your brain's development and the profound possibility that the you being built is a functional story, layered over a much deeper, more fundamental awareness. Conclusion: the liberation of a fluid self. We're left with this radical and, I think, beautiful idea. You are not a static photograph. You are a flowing river. You are a story that is still being told. Realizing that there was no single moment when you popped into existence isn't a reason for an identity crisis. It's a declaration of freedom. If you aren't one fixed thing, you're free from the pressure of having to be that thing forever. You are not permanently defined by your past mistakes or your old identities. Your brain is built for change. It is designed to grow and evolve based on new choices and new experiences. That capacity, that neuroplasticity, means you have the built-in power to literally change your mind, and in doing so, change yourself. You are not a destination you arrive at. You are the journey. So I have a question for you. How has your sense of self changed over the years? What does being you mean to you today? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I would genuinely love to read them. And if this idea of a fluid self resonates with you, you might really enjoy our video on how to use neuroplasticity to build better habits. For more explorations into the science of you, make sure to subscribe and join our community of curious minds. Thanks for watching. You can't point to the moment you became you.